I'm going to do some family tales tonight. John and Maxine were students at Atlantic Christian College over in Wilson, North Carolina. John was a local boy, and he lived at home with his parents. But Maxine lived in the girls' dorm, Harper Hall. Now, the students who lived on campus, particularly the girls, had some pretty tight restrictions. Two of the worst were there was an absolute curfew at 9 o'clock. You had to be in the dorm, and the door was locked, and that was it. Another one that the girls really hated was there was no food or drinks allowed in the dorm. And that one they really disliked, and they had ways of working around that, particularly the ones who had boyfriends on campus. What would happen is curfew, door locked. The young men would go out in town. They might go over to Dick's hot dog stand and bring hot dogs, or they might go over to the creamery and get a milkshake, or over across the street to Tweety's and get a couple of short Cokes and bring them back to the dorm. And the girls would go around to the side and the back to their windows, and the boys would hand food through the windows. Doris up on the second floor even had a basket she used to lower down to get her milkshakes from the creamery. Maxine was on the first floor, right around the corner. John would go across the street to Tweety's, get a couple of short Cokes, come back, and hand the short Cokes through the window. Not only that, if the young lady lived on the first floor, the boy could get his feet in the transom cut out there under the window, get head and shoulders above the window, kiss her good night. And one night, John had handed up his short Cokes. He had kissed Maxine good night. He stepped out and around the bushes, and a hand lands on his shoulder. "Where you going, boy?" And he turned around, and it was the Wilson City Police. Seems the little old lady across the street called the police because she thought she'd seen a peeping Tom over at the girls' dorm. And John got a free ride downtown. Now, what's he going to do? Last thing he wants to do is call his parents and tell them he's at the police station. Not only that, he's not sure what they could do to help, so he calls Maxine. He says, "Help. You got to come down here. You got to tell them who I am. You got to tell them that I didn't do anything wrong. You got to. She says, "Okay, I'll help you. I'll help you." She hangs up. Now, she's in the dorm, and she doesn't have a car. So she figures she'll have to do the only thing she can do. She goes out across the lobby to a door and knocks on the door. This is the apartment of the Dean of Women, Sarah Bain Ward. Sarah Bain opens the door, and Maxine just tells her the truth. "This is what's happened. This is what I did. Please, we got to help him." Now, Sarah Bain is a formidable woman, and she is serious about the safety of her students, and this isn't going to happen. "Maxine, get your purse." They got in Sarah Bain's car. They drove downtown. They walked in. Sarah Bain says to the gentleman at the front desk, "I'll need to see the officer on duty immediately." He knew Sarah Bain. Everybody in town did. He went and got the officer in charge, who came out, and Sarah Bain says, "We'll need you to bring John O'Connell out here right now." And the officer brought John out. Sarah Bain said, "Maxine, explain to the officer what's going on." And Maxine says, "This is my boyfriend. This is what happened. We didn't do anything. Honest, it's my boyfriend." And the officer listened, and then Sarah Bain says, "So, have we explained ourselves satisfactorily?" The officer looked at John. He looked at Maxine. He looked at Sarah Bain. He says, yeah, I understand. And they let John go. So Sarah Bain drove John and Maxine back to campus. John walked Sarah Bain and Maxine back to the front of Harper Hall. And John and Maxine, the whole way home, I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you. I'm so sorry. We'll never do it again. We'll never do it again. Honestly, honestly. And at the front of Harper Hall, John takes Sarah Bain's hand and said, "You saved me. I don't know what to do to repay you. Thank you, thank you. I will never do it again." And Sarah Bain says, "Oh, you're going to have to do more than thank me. After a night like this," she looked at John and Maxine, "you're going to have to name your firstborn child after me." Which is why I am named Rebekah Bain O'Connell. True story. We're going to go forward in time a little while. My mom, Maxine, loved all things Christmas. But she was a very practical lady, and as a result, I have the world's largest collection of Christmas underwear. I've got little Christmas trees, I have elves, I have prancing reindeer on granny panties, and everyone says Merry Christmas right across the behind. Now, like my mom, I don't waste things, so I wear those. Now, I tell you that so I can tell you this. I live in an old country house, kind of back up off a 2-lane blacktop, kind of in the edge of Wake County. And there's a sort of long gravelly drive out to the mailbox. And one day, I came home, and they're putting cones out front of my house. And a few days, the cones got replaced by barrels. And then guys with orange vests showed up. And the next week, a great big digging machine parks across from my mailbox, and 4 guys commenced to dig in a hole. And I watched them. Sometimes there'd be one guy in the hole and a couple of guys looking and one on the digging machine. And sometimes 2'd be in the hole and one looking and one on the digging machine. And one time the guy got off the digging machine, all 4 of them stood there and looked in the hole. It must have been a really important hole, as much time as they spent looking at it. And this went on for weeks and weeks. And I'd go down to get my mail, and every day I'd wave, and they never looked up. They never noticed me. I was invisible. Well, as spring moved on into summer, if you remember last summer, it got hot. It got really hot, and by August it was burning up. And when it's really, really hot and I'm at the house, I like to keep cool. I wear what I call my house dress. It's not really a smock, not really a muumuu, just kind of loose and comfortable. You ladies would understand it. It's good enough to wear the mailbox, but not good enough to wear the grocery store. And I went down into August to get my mail. And I turned at the box to get my mail, and a wasp flew up my dress. That thing flew up and landed right there above my knee and started crawling up my thigh. And I'm standing there, and I pulled my dress up, that thing, it flew away. It flew away. It didn't bite me. It didn't sting me. I was okay, and I realized what I'm doing. And I pulled my dress down, and I look back over my shoulder, and they're not looking at me. They haven't looked up. They're looking in the hole. Put my dress down. I'm okay. I get my mail, and I turn to walk up the driveway, and I hear behind me, "It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas." And I turn around, and all 4 of them are lined up across the road, and they're waving. And I waved back. And after that, every day when I went to get my mail, they waved, and I waved back. One day, a few weeks later, I opened the door, and the barrels were gone. And the guys with the orange vest were gone. And the 4 guys were gone. And yeah, the diggy machine was gone. And in its place, hanging from the branches of the tree, was a banner that said, "Merry Christmas to you." They've been gone 2 or 3 months now, and you know, I kind of miss those guys. Thank you.